Possibilities, Options, and Dreams podcast with the Entrepreneur Source, where we empower individuals to identify, pursue, and achieve their dreams of self-sufficiency. Melissa and Tamara here to kick off today's podcast. I am the member relationship strategist here at the Entrepreneur Source. I've been here for 5 years, and I work with our franchisor member network and love what I do every single day. This is Tamara Loring. She is our brand ideologist, and I'll let her explain in her own words what that is.
I appreciate that because I usually get that look, right, when people say, wait a minute, what? You're the ideologist? What does that even mean? So I just feel really fortunate. You know, we're in the business of possibilities, options, and dreams. And as an ideologist, I really just get to ideate what that looks like, right? What could a better and brighter future look like? Let's dream like when we were kids and nothing was impossible. So as an ideologist, right, I get to work in that space and just help people create a better and brighter future for themselves and their families. So I appreciate being here today.
Well, so happy to have you. Tamara always brings so much value. She is the embodiment of possibilities, options, and dreams. So what better platform to have her on than the podcast? And so today I'm really excited because, again, we're going to go in and explore Your Career 2.0, the book of the Entrepreneur Source. It's a survival guide for the battered career and investor syndrome. And today is going to be all about chapter 4, which is making your You 2.0 real. And up to this point, we've gone through and discussed, a journey of discovery, essentially, where we talk about the different circumstances, outward or inward, that would kind of provoke someone to look at this and kind of push someone to look at what else is there. And then going inward and seeing what actually does make up my You 2.0. What do I look for? What are my goals, needs, and expectations? And what am I looking for out of my career and life in general? And then again, looking at different obstacles and common barriers that come up for people that we kind of maybe put in front of ourselves. And so now we're here at a very exciting point where we're going to talk about how do I actually make my You 2.0 real, and what are some vehicles actually, choosing the right vehicle that's going to help me get to my dreams. So with all that being said, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I mean, we all have a dream, I believe, worthwhile pursuing. But, many of us, we'll dream maybe and then we'll stuff it, in the corner and not pursue it because we really just don't know how to get there. But, here at the Entrepreneur Source, we just have an amazing opportunity for us to dream and just explore what's possible. So even if your dream feels unrealistic, it doesn't really matter. Let's start figuring out how we can get there. And so we like to call those vehicles for success, right? So if you've got this dream, let's figure out what others have done to pursue theirs, right? And it doesn't need to be anything magical or brand spanking new, right? You don't need to be a genius to come up with that. Just, very pragmatically look at, okay, do you know what? What have successful people done to achieve their goals, their needs, their expectations, in order to pursue their income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals, right? So if you think about the different vehicles for success, I'm sure you'd be able to come up with them yourself, right? Because the one we hear of all the time is the one we hear in school, right? Work hard, study hard so that you can get a job, right? Now, attractive for some people, not so attractive for others, right? So these vehicles aren't inherently good or bad, but it's a possibility, right? What other vehicles are out there, right? Well, we often hear about people talking about investments, right? And even investments have a lot of different strategies, right? It could be stocks and bonds. It could be real estate investments. It could be the popular one nowadays, right? Cryptocurrency. I don't know anything about it, but, that could be an investment strategy. And then, of course, business ownership, right? Now, people will often say, yeah, but I'm not an entrepreneur. That's not for me. So what I would love to do is for us to just unpack them a little bit more and talk about the pros and cons of every single one. But I would love to leave us with a thought or, to not prejudge these vehicles, because so many times people say to me, Tamara, you're in that space. Like, what is the perfect, business, or what is the perfect franchise? And, they hate my answer because every time they ask me that, I say, I don't know. And they're like, wait a minute, you've been doing this for 20 years? How can you not know what the perfect business is? And I often equate it to, it's kind of forcing me to say, which mode of transportation is better? Is a plane better than a car? Is a car better than a bicycle? Well, it depends, right? I mean, if your goal is to fly from the East Coast to the West Coast, I would not recommend a bicycle. It will take you forever to get there. But if your goal is to get more in shape, well, then maybe taking a plane is never going to help you get to your goal. So when you look at these different vehicles, maybe that little analogy helps you to kind of really think about, like, what are my personal goals? Forget what everybody else is doing. Let's look at it like a mode of transportation. Which mode of transportation is going to be most likely going to help me to achieve my goals?
So I love the analogy of vehicles because I think it just so perfectly portrays the career piece of it, but it gives a really great picture of, and this is what I was thinking, a vehicle that maybe served you up to this point, aka your U 1.0, maybe it was one of those things that you just listed, maybe isn't serving you anymore. And so now it's time to upgrade or look for something different. And what I love is, let's say, okay, when you take the vehicle analogy, I was using a sedan. It was a 5-passenger, it kind of got me around. I was able to do all the things I wanted to. Now I need more space. Maybe I have more passengers with me. I need more room in the back or whatever it is. So now I'm going to look for a different kind of vehicle. And again, it's not bad or good. My first vehicle wasn't bad or good. It just now isn't really serving me the way that it did. And that's what I love about these things is job market, investment, business ownership. None of them are good or bad, but just is one now able to serve me more than the one that I was using previously?
Right. I mean, it's a mindset change, right? And it takes the pressure off because I think so many people, want to get it right. And it's like, I have to find the perfect thing as if it's going to be permanent and forever. And once you start thinking, wait a minute, it's just like a mode of transportation. It's like, just because I'm in a car doesn't mean that's the only mode of transportation I can use for the rest of my life. Hey, if I want to get on my bike, I can throw the bike in the back of the car and then do both, right? So, I mean, once you start thinking about it, I mean, it does seem kind of silly that we put so much pressure on ourselves, but it just relieves us and allows us to kind of look at things for what they are, right? So, even if you look at the job market, hey, look, people look at me and they say, how can you stay at a company for 20 years? And I'm like, wow, when your day job is your dream job, right? Why move? But it doesn't mean that this is the only thing I get to try for the rest of my life. If it doesn't serve me any longer, I mean, look, it's hard for me to imagine not to be associated with the entrepreneur source. But, then I know that there's so many other possible vehicles out there, right? So
100%. It just is so nice to look at the fact that I can do and achieve those things that I want to do, my U 2.0, that's all possible. And I can just explore what's possible with these different vehicles, as we're calling them, like maybe up to this point, like you said, the job market has been that vehicle for me and I've enjoyed a steady income. I've really enjoyed the structure of it. I, enjoy that environment. But now I'm kind of thinking, you know what? With everything that's been going on, it's not actually as stable as I thought it was. Or, you know what? I really would like to start creating my own schedule a bit more, and the work that I'm putting in, I'm a really hard worker, that those hours that I'm putting in, I'd actually like for those to come back and actually serve me as opposed to someone else. So now it's like, okay, that job was great, but now I'm looking for something more.
Right. Well, and like we said, pros and cons to everything, right? I think, like you said, definitely tempting, right? That bi-weekly paycheck. It gives a sense of security. The other things we hear is, I have to have a job because I need medical insurance. Like, okay, so is the job the only way to get medical insurance or benefits? Or, now with the exchange, can people or business owners actually secure better benefits or medical insurance through the exchange? So, what we need to do is always pursue and seek the truth, right? What is really, really true, or what is a false perception appearing real? When people say that I need a job because it's secure, as the person who's been right-sized, downsized, I don't know, call it capsized, whatever you want to, whether it's really that secure. I mean, they actually lack control, because how many employees were asked, do you want to be part of a merger and acquisition? And oh, by the way, we're going to, get rid of half the workforce, right? So that sense of security is maybe not the reality. So, again, there are some people, like myself, I've been in a job for 20 years, great. But there are other people who feel like, they're just tired of this hamster wheel, because every 2 or 3, 4 years, they need to change jobs. And, I know that age discrimination is illegal, but so many of our clients who are in their 40s, 50s, or even 60s feels like, they're just being replaced with younger counterparts for people who are willing to do the job at a fraction of the price and who have less experience. So, those are some of the realities that people who are looking for a job in the current workforce are facing. So, again, neither right or wrong, but those are just the realities of the job market. Right. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that comes to mind as it relates to the job market. And I think, there are trade-offs, right? So one of the things now I remember that you were saying is if you're going to work hard, you want to have something in return. And for the most part, when you have a job, there's no equity play in it, right? So you work hard for somebody else, and that's what you get the paycheck for. Where if you were a business owner, maybe you'd be able to build equity in that business for yourself. So, trade-offs for sure.
And just on the job as well, I think a lot of people go into it, like you said, we go through school kind of hearing the same narrative of, go through school, get your degree, and get a great job, and make money, and then you're going to retire, and you're set on this very, this path that society has kind of laid out for you. And in the beginning, I think, we talk about income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity. And in the beginning, I think people look at the job as that's what's going to help me get the income, because that's the piece that they're really focused on. But as you go on, and like you're saying, these clients who are getting to their 40s, 50s, 60s, sometimes younger, 30s, they're seeing, there's something more than just the income. What about my lifestyle? What about the wealth piece of it? And to your point, the equity. So it's like, that's when you start seeing people say, maybe this job vehicle that I've been using up to this point has really only gotten me so far. And now it's time to kind of look at, what else is out there?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the last 2 years just really is shining a light on that, right? Where people started working from home, now they got used to that, they like the flexibility, sometimes not so much, right? Because they've got grandkids crying in the background or what have you. But, people have really taken a hard look at what is important in life, and is it just the income, and are those trade-offs worth it? Or would I be willing to maybe even work for less, but have the flexibility to work from where I want to and when I want to, right? So employers also have had to go through a mind shift, because, attracting talent in this environment has just become very different to what it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I mean, you've probably heard about the great resignation, right? Where you're thinking like, wow, so many people are leaving their jobs and they don't even know what they're going to do next, but they know what they currently were doing is no longer serving their life's purpose.
So I think that, we could talk for hours about the job market, because there's just so much there. Yeah. But I would love to get your thoughts on kind of that next piece that we spoke about, which is investments. And, that is another vehicle that a lot of people actually have seen success with.
Of course.
Some people have not seen success with it, but it's when you think about income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity, taking ownership, I think that's something that comes to people's minds pretty quickly. Yeah. Investing, stocks. You mentioned cryptocurrency, which is a big deal these days, which, again, I don't really know anything about either. But do you want to talk a little bit more about that and maybe some of the pros and cons and what that looks like as a vehicle that someone might use?
Sure, yeah. And again, nothing bad or good about it, but it depends on your risk tolerance, right? So for many, investing in the stock market or other kind of investments are reactive type of investments, right? Your 401k or your retirement funds are an example on that. You have a financial manager managing the assets, and you basically, what do? You kind of cross your finger and you're like, I hope this is going to work. So I think what frustrates people about that, especially if they're not a day trader or something like that, is the lack of control, right? Hope is not a strategy. So great to have a diversified portfolio, but I think what people want and are yearning for is a little bit more control, something that they can actually affect. So, could it be a good investment strategy? Sure, but it's passive versus active. The other investment strategies, right, talking about being a little bit more hands-on, the one that comes to mind as opposed to the stock market would be real estate investments, right? But even there's so many different variations, right? So when you talk about risk tolerance and what people are doing, you've got the people who acquire an asset, maybe they want to flip a house, generate cash that way. And then you've got the long-term investors who maybe acquire assets, not so much so that they can flip the property around and then make some money, but to generate long-term cash flowing assets. So, even if we looked at all those investment vehicles, we could spend days unpacking most of them. But I would say for the most part, it's either risk or lack of control that makes people shy away from that, or maybe they do have those investment strategies, but it's just part of a diversified portfolio. It's not the thing that's going to be the way they spend 40 hours or 50 hours of the working week.
Exactly. And I also look at that as, when you look at people using an investment strategy as a vehicle, I think, again, neither it's not good or bad, but who's the kind of person who's going to kind of take that risk to your point, and maybe it's going to be someone who feels like they have more experience. Maybe they have a background in finance or a background in that kind of thing. They've had a previous job, so they feel more comfortable doing that. And same with the real estate. Someone who kind of has that background, has that experience. It's not going to be. I think oftentimes the everyday person who's feeling like, there just has to be something else. They might look at real estate or they might look at investing, but they might then say, again, obstacles, barriers, things come up where you say, that's just a really hard place to break into. Is that what I want to do? And they might just go back, revert to their job
comfort zone.
Or whatever, their comfort zone, which is another thing. So I don't know if you have anything to add there, and if you do, awesome. Yeah. The next piece, though, is what I get really excited about, and that is the business ownership. And I know, again, there's no bad or good, but there's a lot within business ownership as a great vehicle for people to use.
I mean, fear of the unknown is what's going to keep people from pursuing any of these investment strategies, right? The job just feels more secure because I think we hear so much about it growing up and as kids. So, if we heard more about, real estate investments, maybe we'd all fear the job. It's just because we don't know about it. But, as like with anything in life, if you've got a great mentor or great methodology that you can face, it's just one step at a time. And anything you've never done before will be fearful or scary until you've done that, right? And the same is, I know we're going to start talking about business ownership, right? So many people, myself included, I remember thinking that, I would love to be my own boss, or I would love to have my own business. And immediately as I had those thoughts, the other part of me would say, but you're not an entrepreneur. You don't have anything worthwhile to take to the marketplace, nothing that you can capitalize on. Therefore, you cannot be an entrepreneur, right? So we have this head trash in our minds going on all the time, and they're limiting beliefs, right? So what I love about what we do is we just say, stop for a second and just let's learn about it. Let's just have a childlike curiosity about what is really, really true. And the more informed you become and the more educated you become, doesn't necessarily eliminate the fear, but at the very least, you can see the path to getting there, right? So let's talk about the different, business ownership vehicles, right? When you think about it, same like with the other investment strategies, business ownership comes in so many different forms, right? You've got independent businesses, you've got existing businesses where maybe the owner wants to sell for various different reasons, and then what I like to call America's best kept secret, franchise businesses, right? People tend to think, oh no, I don't want to be part of that because I really am not interested in French fries and fast food. And it's like, wait a minute, that is just one sector, right? There are 80 different industry sectors and just in franchising alone. So, but as you look at the different businesses too, they all come with pros and cons. I mean, if you think about an independent business, right? Sounds exciting. I own it. It's 100% me. That's a pro. And that's a con too. It's like, yep, it's 100% on you, right? So whether you fail or whether you need to do some research and whether there's some growing pains, it's all on you. But is it worth it? I mean, look at any great invention today, right? Thank goodness there was a maverick who thought it would be worth it, I think what the general public sometimes doesn't realize, though, is the road to success comes with a lot of failures. one of the famous Edison quotes is, I haven't failed at 10,000 times. I've just figured out 10,000 ways in which it doesn't work. And that's really the heart of the warrior, of an entrepreneur, right? They have that tenacity and that grit just to kind of figure it out. That the vision is strong enough that even though the obstacles in the way, most people would quit, they just have a way to persevere and see it to fruition, right? So it takes a very special person to be a genuine entrepreneur and an independent business owner.
100%. And like you said, it's like very exciting to think about. Mm-hmm. It's very exciting to see. And also when you see people's successes, who, these entrepreneurs who have gone from zero to now, millions, or, have wild success on many different levels, it's very easy to say, wow, that's so glamorous. But to your point, that person has worn all the hats of IT, marketing, operations, sales, done all the things. And to your point, found all the ways to not do it so that it can succeed. And, kind of gone through all that. And then, you talked about the existing business piece of it. Someone has started a business, brought it to a certain level, and now they're looking to exit. And so now you have someone who, okay, maybe that takes away a little bit of the risk because, again, you're not having to build everything, figure out what works, what doesn't. You can come into a business that is essentially kind of ready to go. It's already moving. There's already some good momentum usually. And so you can kind of get in there and get to work. But to your point with the independent business, there are still so many moving parts. It's not just going to be step in and just kind of reap the rewards. Yeah. There's a lot of work. Do you have to revamp things? Do you have to change out teams? You now are, again, that still independent owner of the business, but still a great opportunity for someone who has that entrepreneurial mindset, is not quite at that, let's start something from scratch, but still wants to be in business for themselves.
Right. I mean, you may have repeat customers, right? Yeah. Maybe they already have the systems in place. So the things that you would need to consider is, okay, do you know what? One, what is the motivation for the person to want to sell the business or get out of the business, right? And there are legit reasons as to why people want to retire, right? Maybe, they've worked hard their whole life and now it's time to just relax a little bit. That is one motivation. Or, maybe they've just not been able to really capitalize on the business and they're working way too hard for the ROI, right? For some people, that is the opportunity to take a business and turn it around because they see the potential, right? So it really just depends on the investor or the person who wants to purchase the business to do that eyes wide open. What is the motivation of the seller? Why do I want to do it? And questions to ask themselves, right? Has the current owner built up goodwill? And will that goodwill go with the current owner? And would I need to start from scratch again? Or is that something that, I can take over? So businesses are bought and sold every single day, and some regret it, and for some it's the best decision they've ever made in their life. So, as you think about the vehicle, like you said, there's some pros with it because somebody else has already seen it through the ramp up. Hopefully you've got a business that has good momentum and, so you can just leverage what's already exists. So, yeah, definitely some opportunity there also.
Absolutely. And then hopping into the kind of that third realm of business ownership and self-sufficiency, and that's something that, as you said, the best kept secret, it seems sometimes, but that's franchising. Yeah. And again, talking through what that looks like. And again, also reiterating, none of these are inherently bad or good. It's just exciting to be able to learn and educate yourself and be able to educate others about what's possible with each of these, and then someone can make a choice and choose between them what is actually going to fit my income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity. And that is what that taking ownership is. Yeah. Because now it's not a frantic, oh my gosh, I need a job. Oh my gosh, I should start investing now. I'm past my, the date that I should be investing, and I should probably have already bought houses by now and all these things. I should have started my business 10 years ago. So that's me going on a tangent. Yeah. But getting back to franchising, what are some of the things that you see around franchising that can make it a great vehicle for someone?
Yeah, look, business ownership is not for everybody, and franchising, quite frankly, isn't for everybody, right? I always say, like, if you've got this inventor or this maverick or this person who's got this idea that they want to take to the marketplace, the last thing they should do is try to follow somebody else's system. But for somebody like myself who had that entrepreneurial itch, right, I knew I wanted something for myself, and a job per se was not going to do that because, like you said before, the opportunity to build wealth and equity just wasn't there for a job. Franchising can be an attractive model because you actually leverage somebody else's idea. And franchising, or what makes franchising work, is the fact that they have a paint-by-number approach, right? They have a proven system, a replicatable, duplicatable system. I don't even know whether those are English words, but
we'll go with that.
but you get my point, right? And we have an acronym in our system that we would like to refer to, and we say, what does system stand for? Save yourself significant time, energy, and money. And really, that is one of the advantages of a franchise system, where it's kind of like a recipe, right? If you've got somebody who's got an amazing chocolate chip cookie recipe, I don't need to invent it. I don't need to figure it out. I don't need to measure all the right things. What I need to do is follow the steps, and if I follow them exactly right, guess what? I'll have the opportunity to bake an amazing chocolate chip cookie also. And really, if you think about franchising, that's an easy way to think about that. And then the other thing that people like about franchising, once they start exploring it, is it gives a sense of community, right? Because you're part of a community, you're part of a system. And franchising, a franchisor can only work if they have successful franchisees. So inherently, for that to work, you need to create interdependent win-win-win relationships. So again, franchising, not necessarily for everybody, but for somebody who wants to be in business for themselves, but not by themselves, that may be an attractive option to look at. And like I said, people tend to think fast food and French fries, but oh my gosh, that is one industry sector. They're literally, if you can think of a business and an industry, chances are there's a franchised version of it in that industry sector. So like the way I feel, I have so many opportunities. I can participate in over 80 different or 90 different industry sectors, but my life is not going to be long enough. I just need to figure out the vehicle that's going to work for me right now, maybe for the next 5 or 10 years, right? I don't even worry about like if it's the perfect vehicle forever and ever and ever. It's just, like you said, where you're at this phase in your life. You said something like you put the pressure on yourself, like maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have done that already. Do you know what? It reminds me of that Chinese proverb, right? The best time to plant a tree probably would have been 10 years ago, but you and I can't do anything about that now. So when is the next best time? The present, right? So if you get educated about it and you look at the different vehicles, hey, just use it as a short-term strategy for now, for the next 5 years, or from now for the next 10 years, right? I think it becomes more digestible that way and less fear-producing, right? It's like, okay, nothing's forever. It's just my best next move. And then I can always change or add to it or diversify.
Right.
So.
Right, and we're talking about, how to make your you 2.0 real. Yeah. And so these are just some of those hows, that maybe people haven't explored before, or maybe they've thought of some of these things and then said, nope, not possible, not in my wheelhouse, not in my experience. Like you said, fear of the unknown. Yeah. But just taking the time to explore these different things, and I hope that, today we're able to kind of dive into some of the different pieces of each of these vehicles. Being able to kind of learn about them, as I said, it takes out that feeling of being overwhelmed or that feeling of, I could never do that. That's not for me. I saw that person be successful, but I can't do that. I think really when you hone in on, again, income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals, and you understand this, I am so excited that I can achieve this, and now it's just, which of these is going to work for me? Yeah. And not attaching, it has to be business ownership, it has to be a job. It could be any of them.
And it doesn't need to fit into one bucket either, right? It's not either good or bad, right? I mean, looking and learning about things you don't know anything about or have never considered before will be daunting, right? And overwhelming. But the thing is, it doesn't need to be. If you align yourself with somebody like a career ownership coach, they can help you kind of, just like we did today, explore the different options, explore the different vehicles. You know, and the other thing is, don't let fear stop you in your tracks. There's I don't know who came up with the fear acronym, but you just mentioned it, right? What if what you believe and think is only false evidence appearing real? Would that make a difference, right? And I believe that most people get stopped in their tracks by fear because they're scared of making a bad or a wrong decision for themselves and their families. And I get that, right? But that fear of making a bad or wrong decision is what stops people from pursuing their dreams altogether. So if we could actually give ourselves permission to dream, if we could give ourselves permission to learn and realize that as human beings, we don't always have the ability to make the right decision. But what we have is we have the ability to make an informed choice and then get to work so that it becomes the best decision we've ever made in our life, right? So getting it perfect is a goal that's always going to elude us. But if we know that we can take baby steps and course correct, baby step, course correct, you will be amazed at the progress you make when you look back at 10 years and you're like, wow, right? Yeah.
So, and exactly, I think, you know, we put on ourselves, how do I know this is the right decision? And to your point, being able to take out that pressure and actually just let yourself think, okay, just what is it that I would love to be doing, you know, 10 years from now? Or what is it that I would really like for my family or for myself or for my kind of life? And then taking those small steps, digestible steps. You know, it's not just jumping off a cliff, okay, and then just hoping your parachute opens. That's not what this is about. It's really exciting, and that's what's cool is when you kind of take out decision-making mode and you can start looking at it as it's a choice. I'm making the choice. I'm taking ownership of it, and I'm able to really kind of take back control. Then that's when it's really exciting, and you can look at all of these kind of with, again, an open mind, and a kind of a new mindset perspective that, again, will change how you look at all of these vehicles.
and you don't need to figure it all out by yourself. I am so grateful, so grateful. Like, I thank my lucky stars, not only that I live in a wonderful country where we can participate in the economy. And like I would like to say that fast, right? I'm still learning, but it's also the people that we surround ourselves with, right? People who see possibilities as opposed to just obstacles, people who are entrepreneurial minded, people who are wealth creators, and people who are creating a legacy, right? So it's not like fiction. I can actually see it every single day, and I'm so grateful that I get to be around people like that, and I hope that I get to pass it on too. So if somebody feels like I just need to read a book or I just need to figure it out by myself, no need to do that. Thank goodness we get to interact. If you're even slightly intrigued about, like, can I too pursue my goals, needs, and expectations and figure out what my income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals are, align yourself with the coach. Just have a conversation. No decisions need to be made. It's just learning and educating yourself about what's possible.
Amen. And on that note, I hope that we have kind of covered this, making your you 2.0 in a way that does maybe provoke some people to think a little bit more closely at what your income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals are, and to kind of revisit maybe some dreams and some things that you thought about maybe a year ago, 10 years ago, and kind of revisit that to let yourself dream and let yourself kind of think, wait, there might be something more here. So that's what I would challenge everyone to do. Just give yourself the space to learn and educate yourself, and who knows where that could lead.